Hello. Welcome to the news from hell. My name is Gray Pants, and I'm here with Alicia, and today we're going to be talking about some, I don't know, quite hellish news, I would say. Alicia actually has no idea what I'm going to be talking about, but...
No clue.
We're going to go, I don't often read CNN so much. Sometimes I just, go to the headlines as, hey, what's the most tepid warm water news portraying right now? You know, I do that before I go to Fox News and Breitbart, or before I go to, far more left-wing sources, before I go to Mother Jones. I like to read The Intercept for some of their journalist-specific views. I'll read some anarchist news sources. Anyway, I try to read as many news sources as I can. But the CNN usually pretty tepid in my point of view. But I saw this, The Point with Chris Cillizza, the 67 most stunning lines from Donald Trump's epic 2-hour CPAC speech.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
So I just wanted to go through these points. You know, I'm not gonna mention his responses, which will probably be close to the same as my natural response first. And I'll probably skip some of these, but I want to just kind of go through his points, because the points he points out are kind of funny. So it's a good way to go through this without watching Trump talk for 2 hours, because after watching, I spent most of the weekend watching CPAC Raw live footage.
And I was horrified and bored by it at the same time.
Well, you were just hearing it from the other room, and my brain has turned to mashed potatoes. So here we are. Okay, so this says, number 1, Trump comes out on stage, claps, and then bear hugs the American flag.
I saw a photo of that.
Yeah, I saw a video of that. That was
Isn't that disrespecting the flag? You're not supposed to touch it, right?
Well, I mean, what? You're not supposed to burn it, I guess. But I mean, whatever. It's just a piece of fabric. I don't care about any of that.
No, but there is decorum in terms of handling the American flag.
Yeah, supposedly there's decorum when handling the American flag, and he was bear hugging it.
Well, that just, to me,
he might as well have fucked it. Oh, hi, Malcolm.
I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say that, but I think it was very symbolic, and that was a very powerful image of who Donald Trump thinks he is.
Well, it's just...
He's wrapping his arms around the United States of America,
cheap.
like I'm clenching it in my arms.
It's as cheap as a wrestler draping it over themselves, It's a cheap move. I don't know. Let's move on, though.
It just reminds me of the Umbrella Academy and the guy that's like half man, half ape. He
I didn't watch it
to
yet,
stop
so
his sister. I don't want to create any spoilers here, but this is a spoiler alert.
Oh, say it. Yeah, spoiler alert.
His sister Vanya discovers she has a superhero power, and basically she can just explode a huge amount of force from her body, like a force field, and it can bring buildings down. And so he just crushed her with a giant hug because he has 8 biceps, and he made her pass out from that because he was trying to stop her from destroying the world, creating the apocalypse. So that's just what it reminded me of, because I was just watching that today, and I was
it sounds like there's probably a good analogy there. Probably need to watch it to get it.
Yeah, well, that's what it makes me think about is she is so powerful that she could destroy the world and bring on the apocalypse. Yeah. Let's look at Trump and his finger on the hot button with North Korea, and Russia. Come on, Cold War.
Yeah.
He has a little too much power in his hands, and he's making too many powerful decisions on his own.
That's true.
Hence the wall, a national emergency. Give me a break.
Hey, let's take just a second to mention this podcast is unofficially brought to you by Andes Mints until they start to pay us. They're incredible. And hey, Malcolm, if you go out there, I'll give you an Andes Mint. And You just have to stay out there until we finish our podcast, and that's it.
They do
Deal?
have artificial and,
Good deal?
and natural flavors.
All right, let's give him one. And here, Malcolm.
Once in a while, I like a little artificial.
Just let us finish our podcast. Thank you.
There you go.
That's good advertising, right?
Yeah.
Andes Mints. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. What is it? Tootsie Roll group? I forget. Yeah. Can I have one though too?
Yeah.
We had a deal. You're supposed to stay out there. It went off. For fuck's sake. Can you just go out there for a minute? I'll see what I can do. You just go
Just
out
give
there.
us a couple minutes, Malcolm. We'll go out there and turn it back on. Okay.
All right.
Screen time.
What next one? I'm just gonna skip that. It's really, really dumb. Half these are dumb. Let's just keep going. Let's see. He's talking about dumb stuff. So I think, quote, so I think we're going to do even better in 2020. I think we're going to do numbers that people haven't seen in a long time.
What does that mean? Numbers.
Doing numbers.
Doing math.
I don't know. Do you want to do some numbers?
Like, yeah.
Hey, girl. Let's do some numbers together.
I don't even want to go there. I don't know what this means.
I don't know.
It's a freak, man.
I don't know. But after this podcast, it's getting freaky
Oh man.
with our
Yeah,
numbers.
I'm gonna grade some iced up.
So, what are you doing here?
I don't know.
What are
CNN,
you doing here?
CNN. It
Turn that
shows me
CNN
these.
off.
It shows me these videos. I don't like. Okay, so what does that mean? And then, but I found some very old laws from when our country was rich, really rich. The old tariff laws.
Oh yeah, he's
we
talking
just
about
had,
tariffs.
or we had to dust them off. You could hardly see; they were so dusty. Moving on.
Wait, can I go one here? This is one of my favorites. When he's talking about the Green New Deal, right? When the wind stops blowing, that's the end of your electric. Let's hurry up, darling. Darling, is the wind blowing today? I'd like to watch television, darling. Okay. Does he not know about energy storage technologies and that, yes, we haven't made the most efficient electrochemical energy storage mediums yet, but we've also built giant flywheels underground that have superconducting bearings that work as a generator and a motor and store energy. We can pump water, up and have it turn a generator when it pumps back down, at night. There's ways to store energy. Not all of them are 100% efficient, but Donald Trump acts as if energy storage isn't a thing, like that fossil fuels are the only storage of energy. And yes, as to date, fossil fuels are the most power dense energy storage. But that being said, electrochemical means are getting closer and closer. And yes, lithium ion batteries, lithium polymer, different chemistries of batteries are getting better. There's interesting like molten salt batteries going on. I haven't looked into that in a while, but we're going to get to a point where we have better than carbon-based energy storage. And that's the thing. We're not putting energy into carbon. That's something we put energy into extracting from the ground, extracting from wherever it is in the environment.
You mean like geothermal?
No, I mean like extracting oil and gas.
Okay.
That's carbon energy that's there. I mean, it's essentially dead
I got you.
life. I mean,
yeah.
We're using dead life, but
Right.
What I'm talking about is ways to store energy, and everybody wants to talk shit. These Republicans are think that we want to take their airplanes and their hamburgers and everything that has a carbon footprint. It's like, no, the Green New Deal is more like a roadmap to try to use new technologies which are there and work and which we just need to build more of and which are getting more efficient. Photovoltaic cells are getting way more efficient, and there's new methods of harnessing the sun's energy aside from the traditional photovoltaics that are starting to be utilized. Wind power. Okay, all I have to say is wind power is obviously profitable for companies that have been traditionally burning coal, because you cross over the Indiana line into Ohio and you see hundreds upon hundreds of giant wind turbines. And when you're driving from Indianapolis to Chicago on I-65 north, you see those same style of wind turbines. These companies wouldn't be implementing those if it wasn't profitable for them, because they have to be profitable. If burning coal was more profitable, they would be doing that. So anybody that says like wind and renewable energy can't become 100% of our energy is just basically disingenuous, because we're at like what 20% now. Germany, I forget what Germany was at, but they had a pretty high percentage. They also were doing a lot of nuclear pre-Fukushima, and public sentiment post-Fukushima kind of cut a lot of their nuclear. And, that's a whole different debate whether we should try to have the safest forms of fission. Since Pons and Fleischmann in the 90s and the falsifying of data, apparently nuclear fusion has been far in the background of any kind of physics research. But is it still recording? Yeah, it is. Nice. I don't know. Here, I'm gonna find another one.
I found an interesting article on Bloomberg that the headline reads, "The war on coal is making the world's top mine owners a lot richer."
What is that?
At least for now. And that was from May 1st, 2018. It says Anglo American PLC, Glencore PLC, and BHP Billiton Limited are generating the highest profits in years from their coal mines. Income for 37 coal producers tracked in a Bloomberg Intelligence Index was the highest in 6 years. It all comes down to the simplest equation in business: supply and demand. With governments from Asia to Europe setting stricter pollution limits as the climate change debate intensifies, output of the planet's dirtiest fuel is dropping. Some of the more significant declines are occurring in China, the top mine operator, and financing for new supplies is drying up. That's creating a windfall for the producers who remain.
Yeah, well, so am I hearing this right in that the supply is drying up before, there's more coal power plants in place than are able to receive supply?
I think so.
Yeah, so it's...
And it says concern over tightening supplies has revived prices. European coal for export has almost doubled from the lows of 2016, and U.S. futures are 50% higher on average in 2018 than 2 years earlier.
So how is
and it
clean
says,
coal, their fake clean coal, which is not clean coal at all, going to work if there's no coal?
I don't know. And it says one reason for the output slide is the lack of coal industry financing. With growing concern about climate change, leaders shrank funding for the industry to $14.9 billion last year from $22.5 billion in 2015, according to BankTrack.
Okay. Let me just ask you this. If you're a fiscal Republican and, you're the kind of person that wants to invest in an investment that's going to keep on giving forever, right? The A solar panel is going to keep on giving forever. A wind turbine maintained is going to keep on giving forever with zero consequences to the environment. Instead, you want to give money to a company that's paying people to go underground and pull out old dinosaurs to burn them, and with huge hazards and huge insurance that has to happen within your system. And so yeah, that's a better investment, really. And then yeah, and then we burn that stuff, and we Leroy's opening the door and moving the lights.
It's okay.
Our child and our cat are interfering in our podcast. Beautiful.
Well, I didn't know this, but China burns 5 times as much coal as the U.S., and it both mines and imports more than anyone else.
I thought it was more than that.
Yeah. The Asian country relies on overseas purchases to make up for domestic supply shortfalls. That poses a cliff edge risk for companies including Glencore and Anglo, because even a small drop in Chinese consumption could have a disproportionate impact on international demand, according to Stansbury, the legal and general fund manager.
Well, if I'm to understand it correctly, China, for quite a while, has bought all of our, I forget what they call it, our really dirty coal. And they pile it up around Detroit, right, and ship it through the Great Lakes off to China. And it's like the dirtiest parts of our coal that isn't allowed to be utilized in America because of EPA standards.
Yeah, well, it
the
says
few that we have these days.
Toxic levels of pollution led to the early annual death of an estimated 7 million people, according to a New World Health Organization report.
Yeah. Who's pro-life again? I'm just saying. I don't know. Hold on. There might be one or two more of these. Is this thing still going?
It's just so funny. Yeah, it is going. It's just so funny. Like,
we have a few seconds left.
If Trump is saying, that we're aborting babies after they are born, that makes no sense in relation to the coal that we're burning that's killing 7 million people a year. Do doctors
or the wars or everything else
with war and do abortions add up to 7 million a year in the United States?
Who knows? And
and what are the statistics for that?
That's a whole different thing. Questions of consciousness. I would like to get into that deeply at a later date.
It stopped recording.
Yeah, I know that one did. We still got camera 2 going, so we can finish this and go out on camera 2. But we should probably wrap it up now.
Yeah.
We'll talk some more shit tomorrow or the next day. So this is the news from hell. I'm Gray Pants.
And I'm Alicia.
This is Malcolm. And Leroy is clawing at the door.
He's a cat.
We've been coming to you dead from hell, because that's how you get there. Bye.